My name is Dwayne Gaulding. I race cars for a living, but I don't even have a driver's license.
Oh man, I've been waiting to do this edition of NASCAR Busts for quite some time. I am old enough to remember the Dwayne Gaulding hype, but for those who don't, let me run it back for you. To put it simply, Dwayne Gaulding was supposed to be the next big thing in NASCAR. He began racing at the age of 4, and by the time he was 12, he had won multiple championships. And I'm not just talking about at his local short track, that's one thing, but I'm talking about national championships. He was the youngest driver in Legends and ended up winning the championship. Obviously, with all of this on-track success he accomplished at a very young age, he was gonna get a ton of attention, especially from owners in NASCAR. And it just so happened one of them was a Cup Series driver.
You wouldn't know he was 12 years old. He gets in there and we beat him up just like we would anybody else, and he doesn't get out and complain.
You know, to have a good friend like him and let me race over here, it's just so fun. It just separates the men from the boys.
He caught the attention of Cup Series champion Kevin Harvick, and the story goes is he invited him to his go-kart track and Gaulding beat him. He beat a Cup Series driver at his own track. Harvick was so impressed that he signed Gaulding to be a part of his driver development program for Kevin Harvick Incorporated. He felt that he was talented and mature enough to handle super late models, and at age 13, he was not only the youngest winner in super late models, but he ended up walking away with Rookie of the Year. When asked about his future potentially as a Cup Series driver, Kevin Harvick had this to say.
10, 15 years down the road, he's 23, 25 years old. Do you envision Dwayne Gaulding in a Cup car for KHI?
As you see his career progress, I don't think that there's any other expectations other than to see him drive. Whether it's a KHI in a Cup car, I can't tell you that because we don't even have a Cup car right now. But you know, there's a lot of things that have to take place. But hopefully that would be the ultimate goal. You know, when he's in his early 20s, to see him in a Cup car. I just don't know if it'll be here.
He knew damn well it wasn't going to be with his team because after the 2011 season, Kevin Harvick Incorporated officially shut down. Along with the Nationwide and Truck Series program shutting down came the driver development program. And just like that, Dwayne Gaulding was left to fend for himself, but he wasn't in a bad spot. Obviously, his parents came with a lot of backing, and he already had garnered enough recognition in the sport to attract some of the top development teams. And also, you have to be poppin' if you have your own grilled cheese. What?
Can I get the Dwayne Gaulding's grilled cheese?
You want to do it the way you always do it?
Yes, sir. You know it.
Being nice and polite and everything else that he offers, I think that's another reason why he's on the menu.
It's the Dwayne Gaulding's grilled cheese. It's $6.99 at Red Rock. It comes with tomato soup or fries. That's great.
Look, all the recognition he got on track was well deserved. He was the youngest to win a championship in Legends and the youngest to win a super late model race. All of this took place before he was even 15 years old. He not only had a tremendous work ethic at a very young age, but also had the right attitude and most importantly, the talent to justify the hype. What I do question is the amount of media attention he was getting at a very young age. The expectations were not only high, but the media coverage made it skyrocket to the moon. And it wasn't slowing down anytime soon, especially after he signed a major deal with Krispy Kreme donuts to sponsor him in his NASCAR efforts. At just 15 years old, he began his career in the NASCAR K&N East and West Series.
Dwayne Gaulding, 15 years and 9 days. He will be the youngest driver to ever start in the K&N Pro Series. And one of his sponsors, Krispy Kreme and chocolate milk. Pretty good for a 15-year-old to have those two sponsors. One more time around.
Nice job by Dwayne Gaulding to hold on to second. Here comes the boot.
And in the back of the 21, the 20 of Dwayne Gaulding. They pile up. The white flag has already been shown. And Dwayne Gaulding working his way down the backstretch. Coming through 3 and 4.
Oh, he overdrove the corner. Can he make the corner?
Here comes the 24 on the inside. Cameron Haley. Dwayne Gaulding. Haley's going to get the checkered flag.
A wild debut to say the least, and even though he choked in the final 2 turns, He's only 15 years old and still has a lot of time to develop, and at the end of the day, he still finished second. Later on that season, he qualified on the pole at Richmond, becoming the youngest pole sitter in NASCAR history. While he wasn't really a championship contender, he still ended the season with 3 top 5s and 8 top 10s and 14 total starts, and ended up finishing 7th in points. In the K&N West Series, while he didn't run every race, he would find the biggest success that season, scoring his first career win in the season finale at Phoenix. However, the way he did it left a bitter taste in some fans' mouths as he completely dumped Cole Custer. While he became the youngest winner in series history, little did anyone know at the time that this would be his only win in NASCAR. After driving for Steve Irvin, he moved on to NTS Motorsports for 2014, as well as being elected to the NASCAR Next program. While he would continue to race full-time in the K&N series, finishing the 2014 season 3rd in points, he would make some select Truck Series starts, with the best performance taking place at Canadian Tire. Not only starting on the front row, but led some laps and ended the day with a 4th place finish. And while he wasn't terrible in the rest of his starts, for someone who was getting all of this hype, you expected a lot more. He ended the season in his 9 starts with just 1 top 5 and 1 top 10 and an average finish of 17th. Okay, you can make the argument he's not running in the best equipment, that's why. With his Krispy Kreme sponsorship, even though he made less starts in 2015, he was able to secure 3 races with Kyle Busch Motorsports. But in those 3 starts, he only scored 1 top 10, and obviously Kyle Busch Motorsports doesn't tolerate those types of performances. Okay, so the Truck Series isn't for everybody. What about 2016? Well, he ended up moving up to the Xfinity Series and drove in 2 races for Roush Racing.
Big wreck coming out of 2. It was the 60 going around. Dwayne Gaulding in his first Xfinity Series race.
At 33 of Brendan Jones sneaks by.
Everyone ducking to go down low.
He performed mediocre in both starts, finishing 13th at Bristol and Richmond, and while that was a decent comeback from an earlier spin in his debut, for Roush Racing standards in the Xfinity Series, that wasn't good enough, and especially if you're a young prospect who came in with a ton of hype. So what's next? Does he continue to run in the Xfinity Series at this point? Nope, it is time to go straight to the Cup Series.
Today, the news that Gray's wish has come true. He has been signed by BK Racing to drive their 23 Toyota, which is sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
It's over. It's over. That's what I said at the time when I heard this signing. Now, I'm not hating on him accomplishing his dream. He was able to become a Cup Series driver at 18 years old. That's freaking awesome. But his shot at becoming one of the top Cup Series guys was over. BK Racing was a perennial backmarker. And when you look at his body of work in the lower series, what was there to expect him to do anything in Cup? And it wasn't a surprise he found little success. And then later on in the season, there was this whole controversy with BK Racing about sponsorship money. He said this, he said that. Oh, he hasn't been paying me. Oh, he owes me $2 million. What a freaking mess. Fortunately, he would come back the next year, but his Cup Series career has basically been just a journeyman driving for underfunded teams. And it's basically the same story in Xfinity. He only ran 1 full-time season in 2019, scoring 1 top 5 and 4 top 10s, with the rest of his seasons being just part-time for the smaller teams. Although his only 2 career top 5 finishes to date were both runner-up finishes. So he could easily have 2 wins on his resume if one thing or another went his way. But in the big picture, he was certainly a letdown considering all the hype he had. Fans expected a lot more from him by age 26, but now we don't even know if we'll ever see him in NASCAR again.
A part-time NASCAR driver is facing domestic violence charges out of Cornelius, North Carolina.
The driver was taken into custody by the Cornelius Police Department and booked into the Mecklenburg County Jail yesterday. He's a part-time driver for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, driving number 8 Chevrolet Camaro and Ford Mustang for SS Greenlight Racing.
NASCAR suspended him indefinitely, and let me just say this before I move on. In the United States, you are deemed innocent until proven guilty. Let me say this again. In the United States, you are deemed innocent until proven guilty. While he'll have his day in court, he certainly won't have his day racing on the track anytime soon. And it's a shame. Going back to the earlier interview, Kevin Harvick thought he would be in the Cup Series by age 25. But now, in reality, he's not only out of the Cup Series by age 25, he's out of NASCAR entirely. We'll see what happens during the legal process, but for now, it's safe to say that Dwayne Gaulding is one of the biggest busts in NASCAR history. While we've seen this song and dance before with young prospects not living up to expectations, this one was a harder fall just based on all this extra media attention alone. Sort of a similar story to that of Dylan Kwasniewski, but at least Kwasniewski walked away with a championship in K&N. You can certainly make the argument that his career was mismanaged. Definitely a lot more on-track time in the top series would have done him a lot of good, but also too, you can make an argument that perhaps he just wasn't talented enough in the higher series. Whatever the case you think it may be, let me know it all in the comments below. In conclusion, Dwayne Gaulding was expected to be one of the top Cup Series drivers in the 2020s, but in reality, he is now out of the sport indefinitely. And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.